35 years ago, the Mazda Miata reintroduced a segment into the automotive world, the two-door roadster, a lost art that had been forgotten about for almost 20 years, if not longer. To have a two-door roadster that gives you the fun driving pleasure of the lightweight European cars of old and to bring it into the modern age is something that Mazda will always be known for. Over the last 35 years, we've seen other manufacturers try and copy and paste what the Miata is all about, whether it was the BMW Z3, Porsche Boxster, Mercedes-Benz SLK, maybe to a lesser extent the MR2 Spyder and Honda S2000. But sadly, the Mazda Miata is the last of its kind, at least in the affordable markets. For under $40,000, you get a lightweight two-door that you can throw around. It's basically a go-kart that is street legal. But when you take a look at the competitors that came out in the late 90s, whether it was that Boxster or BMW Z3, well, their predecessors are quite expensive with the Z4 and of course the Boxster, which can go as high as $100,000, if not more. But today we're going to take a look at an icon and a legend, the 2024 Mazda Miata Grand Touring. This is the ND3 and the second facelift for this generation. We're going to check out what is new. We're also going to get behind the wheel and see what the Miata is all about, and also to see if you are looking at buying a fun weekend car that you want to enjoy every single moment behind the wheel without having to worry about getting caught speeding and racking up those tickets, then the Miata might be the choice for you. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Ira Mazda of Westwood in Westwood, Massachusetts for letting me come down here to check out the Miata. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Mazda inventory. So starting off, let's begin with what's most important, and that is pricing. The model we have today is the Grand Touring, coming in at just over $34,000. Competitor-wise, this would go head-to-head with a Toyota GR86 and Subaru BRZ. But I've learned to despise that comparison for a few reasons, because a lot of people who are looking at buying a Miata rarely will look at a GR86. You never meet anybody at a car event that says, you know, I was looking at buying a Miata, but I decided to go with a GR86. And vice versa. The Miata is for somebody who is looking for that lightweight experience, but also a driving experience that nothing else in this market can replicate, and that is a convertible that is small, but also fun to drive, and that's not what the GR86 is. Now, what is new for the ND3? So when it comes to the exterior, very minor refresh. So you have new full LED headlights up front and new designed taillights, which does add some depth to the look of this car for the front and rear fascias. I actually think it makes this car look more modern, but also if you do own an ND or ND2, believe me when I say this, that having a full LED setup for the headlights and not having those incandescent lamps for the turn signals does make a huge difference. But what about the changes that you cannot see cosmetically, such as the revised steering rack or the asymmetrical limited slip differential? All these changes that Mazda made to the platform was to add some stability to the driving experience, but also to keep the Miata from being too tail happy. Of course, you can't turn off a lot of the driving assistance features through track mode. Also, another thing too to keep in mind here is that with the Miata and the ND2 more specifically, you got the kinematic posture control. That alone changed up the on-road demeanor of this roadster. Now with the GT, and more specifically the manual only, because you can opt for an automatic, you will get a sports tune suspension with Bilstein dampers, giving you that on the edge of your seat experience, but also giving the Miata more of a planted feel on the roadways. And we're going to find all this out later on when we take this car out for a test drive. Returning to the styling of the ND3 and why this generation is so special is that whenever Mazda decides to move on from this platform, maybe even this nameplate, it's going to be very difficult for a lot of us enthusiasts to try finding a roadster that will compare to what Miata has here, not only in the future, but also to the past. If you're somebody who owned a BMW Z3 back in the day, or maybe even a Honda S2000, the Miata is your last connection. And it's not just its performance, but it's also the styling as well. Unlike the NC and NB, and actually even the NA, The ND has a very global look to it. You could put this in Paris, you could put this in Tokyo, you could put this in New York, and it looks right at home. You also have the striking body lines on the hood, but also the way it looks all around. You can't help but stare at it. It has this Euro roadster look that in 2024 is so rare to find. You have to go back to the past to get that. If you're somebody who doesn't want to spend $20,000, $30,000 on a used Z3, Honda S2000, or any other roadster from the 90s with a high mileage example, and you have the money for a weekend getaway car that you'll be driving 2 or 3 days out of the week, that's where you're going to love this car. You're going to be drawn into it. And I know for myself, I've been captivated ever since I got the keys to this Miata. It's also so unique in 2024 that it's going to draw attention. You're going to get a lot of eyes on this car, whether you're driving by on a nice winding back road or you pull up to your local car event. Now with the Grand Touring, you are going to have 17-inch bicolor alloy wheels. But one thing I do want to point out here though is that if you are looking at buying a more enthusiast-focused or track-focused Miata, go with the Club and with the $4,800 package that gives you the BBS wheels, the Brembo brakes, and the Recaro seats. If you are somebody who does go to the track frequently, that is going to be a great investment for your Miata. But if you're somebody who maybe is casually driving on the weekends, maybe you live near the coastline, or maybe you live near some nice back roads, and you don't really drive spiritedly that often, you're just looking for a car that you can get away for a couple of days, maybe you had a horrible week at work and you want to have some fun and clear your mind, going with the Grand Touring would be the best option. And we're going to get into that with the interior because you're going to have that softer touch materials that's going to definitely elevate your experience behind the wheel. Under the hood, you are going to have a 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine producing 181 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque. And with this being a Grand Touring, you will have a choice between a 6-speed manual and 6-speed automatic. One thing I will tell you though is that having driven a Miata with an automatic off camera a couple of years ago, you're gonna wanna go with the 6-speed manual for the optimal amount of performance, but also fun behind the wheel. And I have nothing against a 6-speed automatic from Mazda, but it's a great transmission in the Mazda 3, the CX-5 and CX-50. It's just not a great pairing with this car, especially with it being an enthusiast-focused roadster. You gotta go manual. When it pertains to fuel economy, you're looking at right around 26 miles per gallon in the city and 34 miles per gallon on the highway, which is very economical for a car like this. The only other rivals I can think of that would be on par in regards to fuel efficiency would be the Honda Civic Si and Toyota GR86 and Subaru BRZ. Now some of you are going to point out and say, oh, it only has 181 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque. Is it going to be quick enough for a car in 2024? Well, 0 to 60 times come in at around 6 seconds, and some people say it comes in below that. So definitely on par with a lot of fun daily drivers or fun sports cars under 40 grand. Also, another metric that stays true to the Miata's heritage is the fact that this is only 2,300 pounds, which really isn't that much heavier than the original NA. So it's a lightweight car, you're gonna have a lot of fun with it, especially when it comes to the performance. Then before we step inside and check out the interior for the 2024 Miata, let's check out the practicality. Now, with the convertible, you're gonna get right around 4.5 cubic feet of room. But this is one of those situations where no number is gonna help you guys. I have to show you what I was able to fit back here. So I have 2 camera bags, a gimbal box, and another gimbal. Don't judge me, I have 2 gimbals with me today. And I was also able to fit a tripod as well. That is not too bad at all. If I was to use this as a daily driver during the summer, and I go out and film quite a bit during the week, this is actually doable. So if you are going on a weekend getaway, theoretically you could fit probably 2 or 3 bags back here. Now, of course, this is not going to be a practical car by any means. It probably won't be your only car in your driveway, but in a pinch, if you do need to store stuff back here, such as a bag of golf clubs or maybe even some groceries, you can definitely do that with this car, and that is pretty impressive. Stepping inside the Grand Touring, you are going to have manually adjustable leather trim seats that do give you 3 double heated seat functionality. Now, this is all in the name of saving weight, because you would think that with the Grand Touring and with this being a top trim, you'd at least get a power driver's seat, but that just isn't the case. This is all about keeping this car as light as possible, but also it has this old school feel once you step inside, even though we do have a new infotainment system and some new technology for the gauge cluster. While we don't have power adjustability for these seats, we do have speakers in the headrest thanks to the 9-speaker Bose sound system that comes standard with the Grand Touring. On the dashboard, you are going to have physical dials for your climate control settings, your fan speed, and fan direction. You're also going to have physical buttons and a dial on the center console for your infotainment system, much like we see in other Mazda products. There's also going to be a dial for your volume control as well. Then in front of you, you are going to have analog gauges to the right, and to the left will be a small digital gauge cluster, giving you some information such as outside temperature, your odometer reading, also of course how much range you have left, and you can scroll through this and change up what you see that's displayed to you. The most significant improvement, however, for the ND3, at least for the interior, is the 8.8-inch touchscreen that now gives you wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility, and is only a touchscreen when you are in Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. When you are using Mazda's main head unit, it now just functions with their dial and quick access buttons on the center console. I love the fact that Mazda is now integrating this into a lot of their vehicles now, and more specifically the Miata, just because it is easier to use as a touchscreen rather than using that dial, because Apple CarPlay and Android Auto weren't designed that way. So I'm glad to see that Mazda is listening to customers and they're moving in that direction. Touchscreens are the way to go, even if they are going to be on the dashboard. And then for those wondering about storage compartments inside the Miata, you are going to have a cubby for your key fob, but also a deeper compartment for some smaller items. And as you all know, I do love the fact that we do have 2 cup holders. So now that we've gone over everything, let's take the 2024 Mazda Miata ND3 out for a test drive to see how it performs. So today I have come to the Blue Hills to fully experience the Mazda Miata. These roads are perfect for this car with the twists and bends, but also, as I've learned so far, this is a track toy. This is a go-kart that is street legal. And I'm looking forward to showcasing this car to you guys because it is a blast. On my way here, I had a lot of fun. I still got the tail end out a bit, which I was not intending, but this car is designed to do that. So let's hop back in, let's take on those back roads. I have driven 800 horsepower Nissan GTRs. I've driven Ferraris and a Porsche 911 GT3 out on a track. But this right here with the Mazda Miata, this is the pinnacle of driving. You cannot get anything better at this price point. For those who are power hungry, that want 500 horsepower plus, you need an automatic. You know, you just don't get it. You're not understanding that this is all about the driving experience and the feel. It is so analog, so old school, but you feel so connected to the chassis in ways that I have never experienced before in all the vehicles and in all the years I've been doing these reviews. The fact that the shifter vibrates is something that you don't see a lot in this market anymore because everything is so refined. You go over the bumps and imperfections, you feel every single crack in the road. Again, something you don't really experience anymore in the automotive world. Best of all, you have a car that loves being driven hard, and you're really not breaking the speed limit at all. Also, love the weighted steering of this car. And when you are on these back roads, you can feel the rear end kick out a bit, but it still feels oh so planted. Now, there is some body roll associated with the Miata, which we've experienced quite a bit with this generation. And while they have made some changes with the asymmetrical limited slip differential, maybe anecdotally it makes a difference, but this car still feels so fun. And the rear is so tail happy. Also, if you're hopping into the Miata for the first time, super light clutch, and you can easily find the bite point. In fact, this might be the easiest manual you can ever learn on. You have short throws with this 6-speed manual, and everything just feels right. This is such a driver's car in an era where everything is too technological, too electrical. This truly is the throwback to what driving was all about. Also, another thing too, you gotta have the top off. You gotta have the top off. Even if that comes at the expense of you guys not hearing me very clearly, even with my mic on. It's so rare to find a car like this today in 2024 that is brand new, that is so willing, so capable, and so able to meet your demands and put a smile on your face. One thing I have learned though is that it does like being driven above 3,500 RPM. Ooh, Acura NSX. Love it, love it. It's a nice high revving engine. And that's what makes it so unique and so special. Unfortunately, we have to have one of the slowest drivers in Massachusetts in front of us, completely ruining the driving experience and ruining my day being behind the wheel on this beautiful Friday afternoon, the Friday of Memorial Day weekend. This person should be down at the Cape rather than being in my way. But one thing I will say though, with the Miata, as I wait for this person to diverge off to another back road, is that you fully zone in being behind the wheel. You forget that this is a small roadster. You forget that you don't have a ton of shoulder room. You forget that you have a very thin door. It just becomes you in the car. And there's nothing like this out there. I have not experienced a car like this. I've been out on the track before. I've never been this locked in. Oh, this is beautiful. This is beautiful and serene. Now, one of the points I wanted to make here with the Miata Grand Touring is that this isn't just a track toy, although its on-road demeanor in this test drive is proving otherwise. But with the leather seats and the fact you can go with Napa leather seats, this also once again fills that void that BMW doesn't give you with the Z4 at this price point, because you have to spend close to $60,000. See, I knew that I was going to regret this review because I have been looking at a second car, selling my Volkswagen GTI for something that supplements my Subaru WRX, and this right here would most certainly do it. Very easy to rev match as well. A very easy and compliant car to drive as a manual and daily driver, or as a weekend toy. Also, something too, even without the Brembos, it brakes so well into the corners. It's a bit twitchy, but man, it is so fun. I have never felt this connected to a car, even 30 minutes into the test drive. This is pure bliss. Best of all for the Miata is that you can have no prior experience with this platform or this nameplate and hop right in and feel right at home. Obviously, you want to know how to drive manual proficiently before you do that, but it's a car that you can get acquainted with very quickly. And the fact that even in today's era of drive-by-wire, brake-by-wire, and everything being so technological, the fact that the Miata still gives you almost a mechanical feel in 2024 and 4 generations in is something that's really special and something that you don't really find anymore. You know, I said earlier on in this video, this is the last connection to the Roadsters of the 90s, but this is the last connection to anything prior to the 1990s. Now, obviously, people are going to say, well, what about a Porsche 911 GT3 with a manual? All right, like, Not everyone has the money to spend over $200,000. But for those who are looking for that old school experience, something that you can't get anymore in the modern age, and you don't want to spend well into the $50,000 or $60,000 price range, the Miata is all you got. And the fact that Mazda has stuck with this platform, this generation, and heck, this nameplate for so long, even in an era when roadsters and even convertibles in general just aren't in anymore, is so admirable. But after this test drive, after experiencing this car, I'm captivated. Dare I say, I am in love with the Miata. Never understood it prior to today. I have friends that own Miatas, own multiple Miatas. I know people who have hopped into this platform for the first time. They're addicted. They've become Miata obsessed. And you can add me to that list too. I've become one of them. As we wrap up and leave the Blue Hills roads behind us, what we've learned today is that you don't need a lot of horsepower under the hood to really enjoy yourself. Well, some people will suggest that with the Miata, we need at least 200 horsepower, maybe even a hybrid powertrain. Here's what I'm going to respond with. All you really need to have a lot of fun is a 6-speed manual, a light chassis, and a car that gives you the ability to take off the top and just enjoy the driving experience. This car fits in many areas. You can drive this on the canyon roads in California, to the wine country of Napa Valley, or even the Blue Hills roads of Massachusetts. This car is fun no matter where you go, no matter at what speed. And that's what makes the Miata the ultimate driving car under $40,000. And yes, I used BMW's tagline, but what we have here in 2024, in the age of technology, is a car that brings you back to the past and gives you a driving experience unlike anything else you're going to experience out of a brand new car this year. So if you are looking at buying a fun weekend car that isn't necessarily going to break the bank, something that's under $40,000, take a look at the Miata, because it's one heck of a package under 40 grand. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys next time.